It's time for another podcast by George. Straight talk, straight from the heartland, that'll have you saying, "By George, I think he's got it." Now, here's George.
We're back at Drake University. I'm delighted to be here. It's Jason born. That's the way I feel sometimes when I come back to the HQ here to kind of revisit my roots. I'm back in the studio where it started for me anyway, back in 1973, believe it or not. And I want to thank the Dean of Journalism, Kathleen Richardson, the Dean of the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at Drake University, for making this possible. Huge thing for Podcast by George, and I think it's a big thing for our artists in the hall tonight. Bob Pace and Kathryn Severing Fox. So a lot of people are familiar with Bob Pace because he's a local legend. He's in the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's in the Iowa Blues Hall of Fame. Everybody's seen Bob at one time or another. He's got his groupies and his fans. But the cool thing about it is now he's got a kind of a duet thing going. And I saw Bob and Kathryn play a couple of times. Oh my God, we've got to get them on the podcast. We've got to revisit this. And the one song that they did that really, got to me, obviously, was Hero, What Makes a Hero. You've heard that song, the story of Jason Oglesbee. Well, if we could do that at Drake University, it's got a journalism angle because the Pulitzer Prize winning photo, Mary Chen took that at the Des Moines Register. I mean, a Pulitzer, that's pretty big journalism stuff. And, the story itself is great, made for a great song. And then when Jason passed away 3 or 4 years ago, Kyle Munson with the Des Moines Register, the columnist, wrote this great story. And it was the genesis for me spinning off some lyrics, giving them to Bob and doing this great song. Well, Kyle's with the Register. There's journalism there. We're in the School of Journalism. Let's do a podcast to bring everybody together and do this thing. So that's why we're here. That song will come up later. We'll get to that. But let's go ahead and turn to the music now and get started with Bob Pace and Kathryn Severing Fox.
Times in her rock and roll, she just loves to hear the blues guitar. It really does something for her heart, really sets her soul on fire. She's a real blues woman, that's right, and you'll find her here on Friday night. She might dance if the band is tight, hot funk or soul. Turns her on like a light, really makes her feel alright. When she walks into the room, they all light up. Everybody wants to drink from her loving cup. Her smile is like sweets in a sugar bowl. She's a guitar girl, don't you know? She's a real blues woman for sure. When she's down and out, the blues is her cure. There ain't no chance she gonna go out with you unless you can dance or play the guitar too, 'cause that's a real blues woman for you. smile is like sweets in a sugar bowl. She's a guitar girl, don't you know? She's a real blues woman for sure. Well, she's down and out, the blues is no cure and no chance. She gonna go out with you unless you can dance or play the guitar too, 'cause that's a real blues woman for you. That's a real blues woman for you. That's a real blues woman for you. Kathryn Fox.
Great stuff. Okay, so I got to tell my one Drake journalism music story. This goes back to 1975. I'm in a sociology class in this building. And I made some friends with some guys in the back of the room, and I'm always sitting in the back of the room. And we had to put on a presentation, had to do a big deal, big thing for the grade. And we decided to have D'Artagnan Brown come and play before the class. And Kathleen's nodding her head, she knows him, and I know Eddie knows D'Artagnan Brown, Alex knows him. I mean, this guy, great musician, was with the band Chase, Bob knows him. He's a bass player mostly. I mean, he does a lot of different things, but he's known for playing the bass. And he was accomplished at the time. He was just, really getting kind of famous locally. So Dart came into the classroom to play as part of our presentation. And the way that we put it on to the class was, we're going to take a break. We're not going to have presentations today. We're just going to listen to some music. And maybe some of you have heard of D'Artagnan Brown, and he's an interpretive saxophone player. He's really got something going with the saxophone, and we want you to listen to it. And all the kids are sitting there watching, and Dart comes in, and he's all decked out in his road gear. I mean, he's looking good, and gets up there and breaks out a saxophone case and gets it out. Well, D'Artagnan Brown had never played the saxophone before. He'd never wet the reed on a saxophone. Nobody knew it but us. I mean, we're sitting in the back of the room trying to hold the laughter. And he got up there, and just like you or I or anybody, this great musician played this saxophone. It sounded like he was killing a goose. I mean, honest to God, and he just went on and on, trying to get some noise to come out of the saxophone. He had no idea what the hell he was doing. And so he did this for about 20 minutes or so. I mean, it almost got like, oh my God, I can't stand this. We've got to stop this, And so then when it was over with, we polled the class and said, all right, so what do you think of this new innovative interpretive form of saxophone playing brought to you by D'Artagnan Brown? They all filled out their individual slips in private. And then we got them, gathered them up. Every single student thought it was great. Thought it was wonderful. The emotion, the feeling that came through with it. I mean, just, oh my God, it was horrible. But it was a great sociology experiment, because then the question was, after we revealed what the deal was, why did you say that? I mean, is it because you're a bunch of 20-year-old white kids from the Chicago suburbs, which mostly they were, and Dart's black? Is it because you don't know anything about music? I mean, we're not trying to be mean to them or anything, but I mean, just ask yourself, why did you say that? Did you just not want to offend the presenters? I mean, because it was what we put on? And so it was the only A+ I ever got at Drake Cat. But it was, and Dart, the journalism mix in there, and Kyle knows this. He worked at the Des Moines Register for a while. I mean, he became, as well as a musician, he was a journalist for a while. So that's journalism and music mix from 1975, and I'm the only guy in the world probably that would remember to be able to tell the story, but there it is. I wanted to get that in there. D'Artagnan Brown. So no bass player, and we got no cowbell, but we got a guitar and a couple of microphones and a dynamite violin. So Bob and Kathryn, back with another song.
This is one about just bitching about being older. Probably some of you have heard it. This is called New Old World Blues.
Well, it's a new old world now, baby. It's getting harder to find my way. Smartphones, laptops, and twerking, tweets and Kanye. It's it's a new old world now, honey, and I don't think I understand. This high tech is just making a wreck out of this old man. Well, I don't understand this hip hop. Rapping doesn't do it for me. Well, I'm just a child of the 70s, and pretty soon that's the age I'll be. Good loving was all I ever thought about, every night and every day. Now when the show is done, I get more excited about a sandwich from Subway. Well, it's a new old world now, baby, and I don't think I understand. Smartphones, laptops, and selfies, tweets and Kardashians. It's a new old world now, honey. It's getting harder to find my way. Well, this high tech is just making a wreck out of me these days. I used to trip out like Timothy Leary. I could turn on and party all night. Now I'm as straight as the kids on Big Bang Theory, and I use the clapper on my life. Thank you. Well, it's a new old world now, baby. Don't think I understand. Smartphones, laptops, selfies, tweets and Kardashians, Bruce Jenner. It's a new old world now, honey. It's harder to find my way. This high tech is just making a wreck out of me these days. I've reached the age where I know a thing or two. That's what the blue pill commercial says. Or the two bathtubs. 4 hours would be a true miracle and probably give me cardiac arrest. But it's a new old world now, baby. Getting harder to find my way. Smartphones, laptops, twerking, tweets and Kanye. It's a new old world now, honey, and I don't think I understand. This high tech is just making a wreck out of this old man. Well, this high tech is just making a wreck out of this old man. I don't understand hip-hop, twerking, computers, iPads, Tinder, Tumblr, Tweeter, Tanker. Can't operate a toaster. Too many buttons.
I mentioned at the top that we were going to talk a little bit about what makes a hero, and we've got Kyle Munson in the house, and I want to get Kyle up on the stage and get that cordless microphone for him, because he's a big part of this story. And Bob plays a song at the gas lamp, and he gets me up there every once in a while to kind of tell the story a little bit, but the guy that really knows the story is Kyle. I'll start it off a little bit by giving you my basic understanding of what happened. Jason Oglesbee, the construction worker, is working on a pedestrian bridge in the Des Moines River about 10 years ago. And he's doing the high work up there, and he's got a vest to secure him while he's working up there. And a woman and her husband are in a small boat scouting out a place to watch the 4th of July fireworks, believe it or not. They just got the boat. They didn't really know what they were doing. I think they would have been the first ones to tell you that. They were going to take their grandkids with them. My God, what a tragedy that would have been. They had plans to take 5 grandkids, I think, out in the boat with them, but they didn't make the trip. It was just the 2 of them. They got too close to that Lowhead Dam that you've probably seen if you've been over there, and they went in, and the turbulence is unbelievable, and her husband drowned. And the woman was about to drown. She had a life vest on, but nothing was going to last forever. The turbulence was horrific. And the fire and rescue guys had made an attempt as much as they could to get her out of there, and they couldn't do it without going in themselves. There just was no solution to it. And these construction guys are watching it from the pedestrian bridge. And Jason Oglesbee volunteered to be connected to a crane and dangled out over the water and grabbed this woman. And Mary Chin with the Des Moines Register snapped a photo. There was some video rolling as well, but it went worldwide. Viral. It was huge. She won a Pulitzer for it. And I thought at the time, my God, this is the most heroic thing locally I've ever seen, because the way I put it to people, and some people take it the wrong way. I like firemen and I like policemen and all that type of, but those guys are paid to do that. If there's something going on like that and they turn around and go the other way, or they look the other way, hell, they ought to be, fired. They ought to be put in jail or something like that. That's their job. That's what they're expected to do. Not only that, but they're trained to do it. Well, here's a construction guy that did this, and I thought, I'm never going to forget this. It just made a huge impression on me. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, I pick up the Des Moines Register. Kyle's working there, and there's a column. This Superman, as I called him, Jason Oglesbee, had passed away. And I read Kyle's column, and I gave Bob the lyrics, and he came up with this beautiful music, and the song has taken on a life of its own, and we're going to hear that. But I wanted Kyle to talk particularly about Oglesbee and his life, and that wonderful column that you wrote about who this individual was, and then you'll really understand the song even better because of Jason's life.
Yeah. Well, no, thanks for letting me be here, and I appreciate you bringing all these artists together to have a conversation like this, and how Jason's story is kind of traveled on through the years, and you guys have this great song you're going to play about it. Now, you described, this was back in 2009 when the rescue happened, and you described the scene vividly, wonderfully. You can imagine, as this was playing out and it's going over the emergency scanners, all the media begin to respond. And so the interesting thing about why that one image became so important, we actually had photographers stationed on both sides of the river. Mary Chin was on one side, and another one of my colleagues, Andrea Melendez, was on the other. And so they were both shooting, but the shot that ends up winning the Pulitzer, it was part of the drama is, first of all, Jason's coming down on the crane. One of my predecessors, a columnist, Mark Hansen, who wrote about it at the time, he said, he's being called Indiana Jones in a life jacket, and he really was. And you see this powerful image of him reaching down, and the angle that Mary was shooting from, all you could see was Patty Ralph Neely's arm. You couldn't see her. It was just like the arm coming up out of the phone. And so that was part of what I think the whole world responded to, is that you had the drama of just how much on the brink she was at that point. And the other ingredient to the story was just how Jason acted afterward. He didn't go on the talk show circuit. He wasn't on the morning shows. He shunned the celebrity. He shunned the renown for the whole thing. One of his quotes was that, I'm not a hero because somebody died today. He felt bad for not being able to save Patty's husband. And so he has this moment, and then in 2010, Mary wins the Pulitzer, and there's more recognition. But again, it's not as if he was out there as a public figure. He wasn't developing his brand through that recognition, right? And then all these years later, I'm a columnist at the Des Moines Register. 2017, word comes that he has collapsed. He collapsed in Creston, where he was living at the time, and ends up dying in Des Moines. And then it comes to light about he had his struggles. He was trying to overcome drug addiction and so many different things, and that's why I ended up calling him a complicated hero, very real hero. And what you were saying before resonates with me too. Let's face it, people like, pick a category like university football coaches. They get a lot of ink, right? Yeah. There's a lot of words are spent on them talking about the heroism of the game and everything they do and scrutinizing every move they make. Nothing against those guys, those people, but here's somebody who I learned after he died and writing about him, it was such a quiet hero. And there were people that came, kind of came out of the woodwork to talk about how they had helped, he had helped them in small ways, day after day after day. People who had, were trying to bounce back after their own addictions, people who were trying to put their families back together. And there was a picture of him being a real advocate in their lives, even if he had his own struggles going on too.
I remember there was a woman you talked about in the column that had she ended up in jail herself for substances, and as oftentimes happens, tragically, her family turned their back on her. I mean, she was alone, didn't have anybody, and if you can imagine going to prison, number one, number two, visitation time, ain't nobody there, nobody's coming to see you. I mean, it makes that time go much slower for anyone. Jason went. She said he was the only guy that came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He seemed to be a guy who had cultivated a lot of empathy, and he was, he was a generous spirit. He's a generous spirit, and raising up that sort of a personality and trying to pay tribute to that kind of a person was one of the most powerful things that I feel like I was able to do as a journalist. When you identify those people in the community, those neighbors, and you can kind of show that to the rest of the community, that's a powerful function of journalism, I think.
So anyway, I gave the lyrics to Bob, and Bob turned it into this song, and kudos to Kyle, because I mean it really came from his column. That was the blueprint for the song and for the lyrics, and it's what makes a hero.
I think that deserves some applause. Makes a hero if someone's drowning in the dam. The river was raging as he grabbed for her hand. He saved one life, he tried to save two. But the river, it takes what it wants from you. He made it out, he could have fallen in. River, it took one back from him. He saved one life, he tried to save two. They call him a hero, and I would too. Jason's gone, the monkey's off his back. No more pain, no needle track. Have their demons too. They might save a life, it might be you. And life is hard, it makes it so hard to be a hero and a hiding star. Jason's gone, but not his soul. Once he saved would tell you so. Jason's gone, the monkey's off his back. No more pain, his soul's intact. Angels have their demons too. They might save a life, it could be you. is tough, it makes it hard to be a hero and a hiding star. Jason's gone, but not his soul. Once he's saved, they'll tell you so. Jason's gone, the monkey's off his back. No more pain, no needle track. Angels have their demons too. Might save a life, it could be you. Jason's gone, the monkey's off his back. No more pain, no needle tracks. 'Cause angels have their demons too. Oh, they might save a life, might save a life, might save a life. It could be you.
I'm going to speak for you, and you can tell me to shut up. Kathryn and I only met about a month ago, and we played a few shows together, and it's a lot of fun for me, and I hope it is for you. But we're looking for work, so out there in podcast and video land, hire us.
Yeah. Well, you can't go wrong. And I mean, this podcast is evidence of that. What great music. Well, I don't want to end with me talking. I'd rather end with music, so.
Well, I think all we can go out with is the older woman song.
Well, I got myself a situation. I'll tell you all what it is. Got myself in a situation. Tell you all what it is. You might call it some kind of addiction. Ain't nothing that I wanna feel. Well, I never seem to get a handle on the women in my life. I never seem to get a handle on the women in my life. Oh, the kind you hold you candle. Oh, the kind you burn as bright. Good looking on the women, gonna be the death of me. Good looking on the women, gonna be the death of me. They can put a smile on my face.
just can't help it, and I don't know how to cool it down. Fever, I just can't help it, I don't know how to cool it down. Well, it burned the first time I felt it, still does when they're around. I said, good looking older women, don't be the death of me. Good looking older women, don't be the death of me. They can put a smile on my face, honey, that can light up the city street. I said, good looking older women. I said, good looking older women. That's all I'm gonna say about that. My age, I better not say nothing about younger women. That would be a little creepy, don't you know? The Me Too movement, I might get sued or misconstrued.
My pal Jake Gilliam back there running the video for us, and lastly I want to thank my talented and gifted and beautiful wife Mary Clark for helping out here and married 30 years. If you don't say stuff like that, you don't get to be married 30 years, so that's how that works. Yeah, so that's great. Thanks everybody, really appreciate it. We'll be back again soon. I hope to do this. I hope to do this a lot. And for right now, though, that's going to wrap it up. That's another podcast. Bye, George.